Hi, I'm Rob, and welcome to the E14 Toybox. So this episode is a team build. I had a game last week at the time of recording, which was a charity event hosted by Suppressing Fire's Ian Harmer, or Brick Fury's Ian Harmer, I should say, and attended by E14 alumni Omer, Blake, Crouch, Brad. Obviously, Crouch and Brad are also part of Brick Fury. Blake turned up on one of their recent episodes as well. May even be the most recent one, depends on when this goes out. So what I thought I'd do is give you a little breakdown of the team I'm choosing. So the rules of the build are it has to be a 600 point build, no more. And you have to have a hero who has a maximum value of 150 points. So you can field a team of 4 150 point characters, but you can't do 3 200s. So you have to have one who has a maximum value of 150 points. So I think you'll like who I've picked. So I'll show you that video now of my little build, and then I'll come back and tell you how that went. So see you in a bit. Right, so the team, to recap, is 600 points. The only restriction is that you have to have one figure with a maximum of 150 point value, and the reason for that is because there's an ability that's part of the game which is one of the charitable elements, which is called the Lazarus effect. It allows you to regenerate one character back into the game after they've been knocked out, but it's restricted to 150 point value, so it gives you a chance to kind of stay in the game if you're just about on the brink of disaster, or it may allow you to do some sort of strategy you've got in mind if you're that kind of detailed into it. Personally, I'm not. I just want my game to prolong a little longer. I'm not very good, so I don't always last fantastically well, especially in the big rucks. So with that said, here is the team I've chosen for this evening's proceedings. Batman from the Justice League Trinity War. Here is the figure here. Isn't he lovely? Sort of think I've figured out the camera angles and the focus and stuff now. So he's 150 points. You can't quite make out his name from there because his cape's in the way, but it is Batman. It's the Bruce Wayne version. He's got a few abilities that I think are going to be useful, especially when combined with Wonder Woman. And once again, this is Justice League Trinity War Wonder Woman. 200 points. And that's her there in all her glorious glory. I'm playing her at 200, so she'll benefit from the full dial. And again, she's got more abilities that are, what's the word? They're tied to her, but they're also usable by people with Justice League keywords, especially Batman or another character. Now that's I'm up to 350 points at this stage, and you might be thinking, well, what could you do? You can either split it out and have two medium point figures, or you can go for a really strong heavy hitter. So I've opted for the latter in this case, and I've decided to complete the Trinity and to pop in a Trinity War Superman. So here he is. Ba 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 ba. Ba, 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 Superman. Obviously, I'm not a massive fan of the Superman comic character. Some of the movies are alright, but I do like the Superman clicks, especially ones that make use of the lovely transparent plastic that I'm such a fan of when it comes to using it for kind of creatively. So that's my team. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. A little blurry in this case because I finally figured out how to get them in close-up shot, but that comes at a sacrifice. So, will I win? Now that's the question. The obvious answer is probably not, because I'm not fantastic at the game. I tend to not do so well in the big battles, and obviously it's all for charity, so it doesn't really matter if I win or not. There are a ton of prizes available, some of which have been donated by myself and some by the other players. Some of the E14 guys, Blake, Omer, Crouch, and also Brad. Obviously some of them are Suppressing Fire and The Word. But yeah, that's it. And then there are others. Oh yeah, and Ian, obviously the one running the game. I keep forgetting he's part of Suppressing Fire because I do watch the videos, but obviously there's not just videos to it. But nevertheless, these are my team. I'm sticking to them. And I don't know about you, I like my chances. The main thing I need to do is make sure I was going to play Mysticals, but I decided against it because we're playing against Fin Fan Foom as part of a force, and he ignores all the mystical damage, so the only real perk to having a mystics, apart from their certain powers which he's immune to anyway, are their ability to do mystic damage, but he ignores it. So this is why I've gone for the Trinity as I have. See, to recap, Superman at 250, Batman at 150, and Wonder Woman at 200. Realistically, given my history with playing with these characters, I've not actually played with the Superman, but I've played with the Wonder Woman, I've played with the Batman. The Batman is very handy when it comes to the initial rounds because he starts off with this box out power, which gives him the ability to kind of copy attacks. So that can be very handy. So there you go. Now, I will let you know after the break, as it were. Obviously it won't be immediately after because I've got to go and play the bloody thing first. But I'll let you know after the break how I get on. Bye for now. Welcome back. So here's the time where I'm going to tell you how the game went. More specifically in terms of how my team fared. Because I always have fun at these big charity games because they're always massive amounts of chaos. There's usually sort of 6 to 8 people around a table all playing clicks with enormous value teams, so there's loads of heavy hitters, hilarious moments, loads of completely epic successes and fails. So let's talk about some of those. So as an overall thing, my team fared quite well. I, on the other hand, rolled like an absolute pillock for the whole evening, and I think I probably only succeeded, I can count the number of times over the whole game that I succeeded a roll on one hand. That's how bad my game was. Now, last time I played, which the team build video for which was the previous team build, so Signalman, Black Adam, Felix Faust, I did a lot better. I was rolling better. Obviously, I'd had some decent strength characters in there as well. But admittedly, considering I had some pretty decent characters in this build, I thought it should do a lot better than it did. But like I say, most of that was down to dice rolls, maybe some bad luck, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, having the character too far away from something when that sort of thing happens. So I'll talk you through each character kind of on a brief level. So Wonder Woman was probably the most unfortunate character in my team because she got knocked out. She was the only character on my force to get knocked out. And unfortunately what happened was she got locked into a melee brawl with the, I can't remember if it's Avengers Assemble or Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hulk, but he's this fucking great Titan who's enormous and hits like an absolute train. So she got caught with him and I Vampire from the Justice League Trinity War set. Now, she did alright, she was getting some shots in, but she wasn't getting nearly enough to take them both down. I tried to get another character over. Everybody else was gravitating towards Foom, so understandably there wasn't anybody to support me because it was supposed to be a cooperative game. But everybody it gets into a bit of chaos. It is good fun in that respect, but obviously that's the downside of it. So she got knocked out really quickly, and that was really unfortunate. But she held her own as long as she could, and she did kind of have a couple of successful rolls to do things like put a couple of hits in, that sort of thing. Batman did all right, and he got to click 4. I actually realised without knowing it, I actually left them. Normally I click them all the way back round to click 1 once we finished the game, but for some reason I didn't do that this time, so actually I can tell you exactly where they got to. So Batman got to click 4. He was holding his own quite nicely, getting some shots in against Foom of his own. As I recall, Foom ignored a large quantity of them because that's what he does, especially when he's part of a force, as this one was. I probably mentioned that we were up against Fing Fang Foom as played as a part of a force, so he was enormous. I think 2,700 points or something ridiculous like that. The Titan Hulk I mentioned. So we had Foom, Hulk, I Vampire, a couple of mindless ones, and he had the opportunity to bring in other reinforcements as we went along. Thankfully, I think we blocked him from doing that for most of the game. So Batman did all right. His utility belt power is incredibly useful, even though I couldn't use half the stuff I would have wanted to use, like Penetrating Psychic Blast. I got to use Blades, Claws, Fangs. Obviously, given that I mentioned earlier my dice rolls were rubbish, I ended up not really doing much more damage than I would have done otherwise, if not less. So that was a pain. Superman fared a lot better. I think he got a couple of good shots in, maybe even a couple of sort of low character knockouts. But he also ended up on click 4. So he didn't actually get knocked around too much either. It helps that he's got an 18 defense at that point. Now, it was a charity game, but there were, in addition to putting some money in towards the cancer funds that they were raising money for, very good causes, We also had prizes available for doing certain things in the game. I did very well at times as far as the prizes go. I actually ended up... There was a running joke at one point that it was just arbitrary conditions that would give me prizes, like who's got a middle name, Benjamin. But I did do quite well at prizes, so I'm going to give you a quick swag haul, as it were, to see what I got. So one of the things I got was this rather lovely Justice League of America t-shirt, which I thought was pretty nifty. Very sort of old style, traditional comic artwork. Not so much in keeping with the modern take on it, but a lovely t-shirt, and in my size as well, which is always handy. So then I have some figures, which I also won. So I won a Bucky from, I think this is from Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Nick Fury set that came out sort of relatively recently, one of the more recent sets. I got to play him. I was lucky enough to be able to use him in the game, so that was pretty cool. And he actually was quite helpful, because he starts with Blade Claw's Fangs on click 1, even though he's only got 45 points of value, so he proved very handy in that respect. Even more handy, who I also got to use in the game. This one was a commiseratory thing, because Ian realised he'd accidentally played something at the wrong click value, so the character was a bit more powerful than it should have been. And as a way of saying sorry, and a way of, because by this point Wonder Woman was already well gone, I got to use the Mandarin. So he turned out actually really cool, and I ended up running them over and having a crack at a mindless one. Didn't quite get to knock it out, because I think somebody stepped in and did the last blow. That happened a lot in that game, but then obviously, considering my dice rolls, I'm not surprised. So he ended up on click 2, so I didn't actually take a lot of damage with him, which was pretty good. I think Bucky got knocked out, which is why he's on click 1. And then there were a couple of pieces that I wasn't allowed to use in the game, because they came in either at the end, or they were judged too powerful, which is totally fair when you see who it is. So Agent Ward was one of my prizes at the end of the game, also from the Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. And this is the rather lovely one, the Avengers movie edition of Loki, at 220 points. So understandably I wasn't allowed to play this one, which I thought was fair enough. So that's a lovely piece. Has some really cool abilities. Has the Cosmic Cube, or the Tesseract, whichever one it's called in the movie, in his hand. And he's just a really cool piece. I have a couple of Lokis, but he's probably the nicest one I've got. So this has been the Toybox. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.